He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of StoryPower TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J. Lauren Norris.
It's amazing to me that if I said something to you like, yeah, I like Brussels sprouts, you probably wouldn't believe that I like Brussels sprouts. But if I said, I love Brussels sprouts, you would probably think, I'm not sure if he loves Brussels sprouts, but he is a little over the top. What would I have to say? In what way would I have to say it for you to believe that I actually enjoy eating Brussels sprouts? That's a concept I want to talk to you about today, because I think you've been lied to about a lot of things. And there's actually a weapon you can use to fight against it, because people you care about have been lied to too. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Dive in, share it, like it, subscribe it. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J. Lauren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I can tell you throughout the course of my life, I've had people lie to me. I've had people lie straight to my face. I've had people say things to me that I knew when they said it, they weren't true. And yet they feel like not only can I, quote, get away with telling the lie, but it's perfectly okay if I do. In fact, you may have heard the old phrase, if the ends justifies the means, then by any means, get to the end. There are people who will tell you a lie because in the end they feel like you don't deserve to know the truth. Or what difference does it really make at this point anyway? They have no problem with lying directly to your face or telling you a truth that isn't really a truth. But see, there's this really fine line between what's true and what's perceived as true. There's also a reality that we all have to deal with, and that is that what we know to be truth is confounding. It's complex. It's complicated. It's hard to get at. Is it true that salt causes high blood pressure? Is it true that cholesterol causes heart disease? Well, there's the evidence that says that when there's heart disease, there's also cholesterol. And for decades, we've been sold cholesterol medications because, well, cholesterol and heart disease were in the same place at the same time. And so obviously that's the culprit. So let's pound down that cholesterol and we'll get rid of heart disease and vascular problems. But then there were doctors who came back and said, well, actually the cholesterol is a response to a different problem. And the different problem is really what's causing the heart disease. And so the cholesterol is actually another symptom. It's not what's causing the problem. It's a symptom of a problem that your cholesterol medication isn't treating. And so really, you're chasing a symptom, but you're not getting anywhere near the cure because you're nowhere near the cause. Now, were the facts there? Yep. Was there evidence to say that if there's heart disease, if there's heart problems, if there's heart attacks, if there's strokes, cholesterol is nearby? Yes, plenty of evidence. But as they say in the court system, is that the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, or is that some shade of the truth subjectively highlighted, pointed out to make it seem as though this is the important factor? Whatever you do, don't look over there. Just look right here where I'm pointing. Don't look over there. Just look right here where I'm pointing. See how confusing that can be? What if I said, just look right here? Yeah, see that it's really complicated when the truth is obfuscated, when it's buried, when it's hidden, when it's denied, lied about, when the truth could be known, but we stretch it out so far that it's so thin that it's not really there. Now, people ask, if you're a leadership coach, why do you focus so much on storytelling? Really simple answer to that question. If you've been paying attention for the last, say, 100 years, you'll know that our world has changed. It's morphed in the last 100 years, in the last 200 years. In fact, we can go back 250 plus years to the founding of this nation, this particular nation that I live in, the U.S., which I happen to believe is the best country on earth, because I've visited a handful of other countries and they're trying, but what they're trying to do is be like America was. Go figure. They're not trying to be like America's trying to become. Venezuela's already done that. Cuba's already done that. The old Soviet Union has already done that. Mao, he did that. And what we found was those ideas were rancid. People died. But see, this is where leadership and the story and truth begin to run into each other, because it's really easy to sell an idea when you cloak it behind a whole lot of lies. When you start selling the truth, things come to light that are not pleasant. Right? An idea that socialism, right? Universal health care. Did you know that universal health care is a concept that says that everybody gets their health care paid for? Wah! Awesome. Who's paying for it? The government. Do you know the government doesn't have money? The government prints money, but they don't have money. The only money the government has is your money. And if you don't have a job and you ain't making no money, then the only government money there is my money that they took from me to give to you because you don't have a job, but you want health care or student loans or universal basic income or whatever it is. This is not a new idea. This is a very old idea. It's a very old idea. It's a very old idea that has been tried thousands of times under different monikers, different labels. And if you do your homework, you'll find that every time they bring it back, they put a different color of lipstick on the same pig. They present it again as a new idea. This is new. We never thought of this before. Why don't we do it this way? Look, here's the truth. It's all about power. It's about controlling the masses and giving the power to the elites. I don't care what kind of government you want to call it. I don't care what label you put under it. The minute you lose your individual liberties because you've surrendered them for the benefit of healthcare or the benefit of a job or the benefit of a guaranteed income, once you surrender your individual liberties and your individual rights, your freedom to do what you want to do, to get in your car and drive 5,000 miles. If that's what you want to do, and there's not a law against it, then do it. It's your choice. But if there are laws that say you can only go within 15 minutes of your home, you should probably be asking why that law exists. Oh, it's about global warming. No, it's not. Oh, it's about preserving our fossil fuels. No, it's not. Oh, it's about spreading health. We want to make sure that you don't take a virus from this area into that area. No, it's not. People have been traveling around the world as long as there have been humans. If you don't believe that that's true, just ask yourself, what is a Viking, and find an old book and look it up. Where did they come from? Who are they? What part of the world did they hail from? Were they good people or bad people? Maybe that's just an opinion. But see, here's the one thing you find in leadership All of these things begin to suss themselves out through one really powerful tool. Stories. That's it. It's not complicated. I mean, you could be lied to through a story for sure. Somebody could create a fictional story and tell you all kinds of lies. There's this thing called an illusory truth effect. It's where the idea is presented to you in a way that, knowing not the details that are going to be explained, but that the vehicle through which they're explained either presents them as true or not true. I mean, if you read it on the side of a cereal box or a milk carton, you might go, wow, that person's been missing for 3 months. That's bad. If you saw it on a poster on the telephone pole outside of your own house, it said this person's been missing for 3 days, you might go, wow, I wonder if we could help find them. If you received a text message from a friend that said, my daughter is missing, help, you're likely to jump out of your chair and go to action right now. Why? Not because the missing person is different, but because the methodology through which the information was conveyed holds a greater weight in your mind. The likelihood that it's true, the sense of urgency that you need to act. Why do you think people who do voter registrations want your cell phone number so they can text you and go, you got to vote today. You got to go now. Here's the issue. Here's what's most important. You got to do it right now. They want to be in your phone. They want to be in your hand. They want to be in your life as an intimate person. They know that that vehicle presumes truth. You believe that if it came to you, it was true. Now, never mind the idea that we already have people receiving phone calls from voices that sound like their own children. Phone calls from their own children while their children are standing beside them, because the scam artist doesn't know that their child is standing right beside them. I recently heard a story on an interview. Again, I can't prove this is true. It wasn't my kid. It wasn't my cell phone, and I didn't do the interview, but I heard the interview, and in the interview, the woman said, I was standing in the kitchen. I got a call from my daughter that said, help, Mom, help. And I ran to her bedroom and kicked the door open, and she was laying there watching a video. And I said, why are you calling me yelling, help, help, help? She said, I'm not calling you, Mom. My phone's right here. But see, the scammers, the liars, the cheaters, the manipulators, politicians, they kind of fall into a lot of those categories. They'll do whatever it takes because they truly do believe that by any means, if the ends justify the means, then by any means get to the end. If you tell a lie long enough, loud enough, I love Brussels sprouts. I so love Brussels sprouts. I will eat Brussels sprouts anytime, anywhere. Brussels sprouts with peanut butter, Brussels sprouts with grape jelly, Brussels sprouts with other Brussels sprouts with broccoli, with salmon. I don't care. I just love Brussels sprouts. Now you might think, oh, you're just making that up because nobody loves Brussels sprouts like that. My favorite ones, it's a steakhouse in Fort Worth. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It comes really, really close to as good as Red Lobster's crispy Brussels sprouts. I love Red Lobster's crispy Brussels sprouts. And there's a place in Southlake, Texas that makes a really good crispy Brussels sprout, but they charge like $18 for a side of Brussels sprouts. You could grow a garden of them for that. I really do like Brussels sprouts. My wife hates them, doesn't even want them cooked in the house. I have to go out to get Brussels sprouts, usually, preferably without her. But right now we're on a beef, salt, and water diet, so no Brussels sprouts for me for a while. True or not true? Hard to tell, right? Hard to tell if I'm just making all that up. See, here's what's hard to fake. I mean, actors do it, but generally speaking, leaders who can tell a good story, tell a story. And the ones that I train very specifically. I tell them, I'm not here to write your speeches for you. I'm here to squeeze you like a pineapple and put you under pressure, because what I want to know is what comes out when you're under pressure. I want to know if you can tell the truth about your own life, if you can be transparent and vulnerable, if you can find the common ground and the rapport with the people around you so you can build trust. If you're perceptive enough to understand what their wants and their needs are, then you can build that vehicle of trust fairly easily. It doesn't take as long as one might think. Unfortunately, a lot of people have built trust through false means. People have built trust through things like a phone call that sounds like your own kid on your own phone. They're using every vehicle that you have established as a trustworthy pathway of communication. It used to be that if we saw it on TV, especially if we saw it on the nightly news, and if it came up in that chyron on the bottom, we might even take a picture with our phone, or back in the day, we would just believe what we saw on the bottom of the screen is, wow, can't believe that's happening. But if it was in the right place at the right time, if it was during the nightly news and it sounded like it came from an anchorman, then we knew for sure that that information was well researched, well sourced, and true. And then we found out it wasn't so. We found out that our nightly anchorman lost his job because he was lying through his teeth. And when he was asked, "Did you know that what you said was untrue?" his answer was, yes. They said, "Did you realize that you could lose your entire career over telling that lie?" And he said, yes. And they said, "And how do you feel about that now?" And he smirked and said, "Well, that SOB's not our president, is he?" When the ends justify the means, by any means, get to the end. Lie if you have to. They will. And getting at the truth is really, really hard. Here's what I find to be verifiably evidenced. It's really hard to live through a story, a traumatic story, a dramatic story, an emotional story, and not relive the emotion of that story when you tell it again. See, the power of StoryPower is the evidence that you've been there. When you tell it the way that I teach, with the roar acrostic, be relevant, have ownership, speak with authority, and be responsible for how people feel when you're done talking. If you apply that, if you apply the 3 E's that Dale Carnegie teaches, if you apply the 4 I's that I teach in the StoryPower Academy, you'll find that your stories, they land because they've dug the truth out of you to start with. They move people to action because they recognize the truth as it's impacted your life. They see that the evidence of what you're telling them will transform them the way that it transformed you. I watched a video just yesterday, I shared it on my social media, of a kid trying to drive a fence post. And he was using this long red pipe with the handle on either side and slamming the side of it on the top of the post to drive the post in the ground. And somebody had put it on a loop, so it looked like he did it for 4 or 5 minutes. He just kept slamming the side of a post, the side of the tube onto the post. And I thought to myself, you know, a good leader could change this young man's life in about 3 seconds. It wouldn't even take a good leader. It would just take anybody with a little bit of compassion and wisdom to show him that the whole purpose of that is not to slam it sideways onto the top of the post, but to lift it up and drop it on the post so that the tube slides down over the post. Then the weight of the tube and the weight of those steel handles and the weight of the steel cap on the top of it actually does all the work. You don't have to work nearly as hard. Now, I've seen people put them on there and jam it down themselves. They want to drive that post in the ground. I've done it myself, trying to put posts in the ground. I thought if I hit them harder, it'd go faster. And there are some places where you have to. But generally speaking, a post driver, a pile driver, is made to drive piles into the ground, posts into the ground. That's what it's for. And if you use that tool properly, it will make your life a whole lot easier. StoryPower is a tool just like that. When you use it properly, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. See, the way we counter the lies that are being told, the ones that are repeated over and over and over again, and we recognize them the first time we hear them, we're like, that can't be true. But then we hear from 2 sources, or 3 sources, or 10 sources. Or maybe you've seen the old Project Mockingbird, where 47 news anchors from all different markets, all different news sources, different networks even, are saying exactly the same words as if the news was scripted, not reported. How do you counter that? How do you tell your children, those who follow you, those that you lead? How do you tell them the truth when 47 other sources agree with each other and disagree with you? You can argue with a man's theology. You can argue with a man's psychology. It's hard to argue with his experience. If I can tell you the truth about the life that I've lived, the things that I've been through, if I can tell you the lessons that I've learned by the stories that I've witnessed myself, been a part of myself, researched myself, it might take more time for that credibility to sink in. But once I can build that know, like, and trust, as Bob Berg says, I become the relationship difference between the milk carton, the anonymous somebody, and the text message from a friend. When I can introduce you to the characters in my life, when I can say to you, I spent 25 years addicted to porn. It nearly destroyed my marriage. But I'm less than 30 days away from a 30-year anniversary. You might think, well, that sounds wonderful, but who is this woman? If you'd never seen her, if you'd never heard her, you might think she's fictitious. Until you meet her, and then you ask her, did you know he was addicted when you met him? And she says, yeah, and I chose to stay. Now you get a whole different story, a whole different level of truth than somebody who says, yeah, I know a little bit about that. I've studied that. I've been around that. Look, if you want to talk about overcoming addiction, I'll talk with you. Been there, done that, got the badge. Also, still have my marriage intact. Raised 4 kids. We have 12 who call us Lolly and Poppy, and 2 more on the way. We have history with addiction and beating it. Not just living it, but beating it. See, that's a story that a leader can tell that has authenticity, that has ownership, that has authority, that's relevant. These people in the news media who just want to make things up to persuade you to buy a certain something, to go a certain place, to do a certain thing, to behave a certain way. And they believe that just because they have the power of the news media, that they can sway large swaths of people at one time. Look, if you're a leader, your ability to influence the people in your immediate circle depends on your ability to tell a story that's true, that's relevant, that's authentic, that's yours, that's not made up, it's not fictional, it's not regurgitated from something else you heard. When you can demonstrate, I've lived through this, I found the solution, I can offer it to you, you can change lives that way. And the ability to tell stories that way gives us the ability to do what I call lead the narrative, which means we stop believing all the things that we've heard in the media, even in some of the most recent books, in magazines, on social media, AI-generated truth. We'll let that one set in for a minute. AI-generated truth. There's no foundation in that. It's generated, it's created, it's mocked, it's made up, it's perverted, it's not truth. It's generated. Yeah, like a fabricated tree. Do you know broccoli's not a real vegetable? It doesn't grow anywhere by itself. You ever notice that? Oh, do some research, look it up. I know, you think I'm crazy. Is broccoli a true food? I don't know. Some people say it's a superfood. Other people say it doesn't grow anywhere naturally in the wild. If it's not natural, is it a food? I don't know. Your ability to tell stories, to recognize the truth, to combat the narrative, to begin to tell stories of the true, authentic reality that you've lived through before the lies take hold. We've spent way too much time countering the lies, fighting back against the deceptions. Yeah, if you say the same thing long enough and loud enough, people begin to think it's true. It's a perception of truth. It's not the reality of truth. But what you've lived through, what you've experienced, there's a lot of truth to that. And the world needs to know it. If you could interview people who've lived in Cuba under the Castros, if you could interview people who grew up in Germany in the 50s, if you could interview people who grew up under Mao, what they define as social democrats today, a socialist democrat, as a communist, you would have a different view of that, to understand the torture that people live through, the poverty, the depravity. Those stories, those would change your opinion compared to the marketing that you're seeing today. It's easy to tell a lie. It's easy to repeat a lie. It's harder to live the truth and tell it when it needs to be told. I'm J. Lauren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Lauren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Lauren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Lauren will serve you well.